ग्यालेक्सी दिस मर्निङ लाइभमा यहाँलाई फेरि पनि स्वागत छ। हामी 6:30 बजेदेखि अघि तपाईँको सामु आएका थियौँ भने अहिले फेरि पनि सरिता र म तपाईँको सामु आएका छौँ र हामीहरू 8:30सम्म तपाईँसँग रहनेवाला छौँ।
अघि हामीले न्युजमा जानुभन्दा अगाडि हाम्रो पाहुनाको बारेमा अलिकति यहाँहरूलाई भनेका थियौँ। उहाँ हामीसँग आइसक्नु भएको छ। तर आज हामी के को बारेमा कुराकानी गर्दैछौँ त भन्दा हेफर इन्टरनेसनलको बारेमा कुराकानी गर्दैछौँ। यो भनेको के हो, यो संस्थाले के गर्छ, यसको बारेमा हामीले एउटा छोटो रिपोर्ट यहाँहरूको लागि तयार पारेका छौँ। एकचोटि हेरौँ है।
हेफर इन्टरनेसनल विश्वबाट भोकमरी र गरिबी दिगो रूपमा अन्त्य गर्नका लागि काम गर्ने संस्था हो। किसान र तिनका समुदायसँग सहकार्य गर्दै जीविकोपार्जनका लागि आम्दानीका अवसरहरूको खोजी तथा लगानी गर्ने प्रयासमा हेफर इन्टरनेसनल सन् 1944 देखि सक्रिय छ। पिछडिएका तथा सीमान्तकृत वर्गहरूको आर्थिक पाटो सम्बद्ध समस्याहरूलाई हल गर्ने कोसिस गर्दै हेफरले अहिलेसम्म विश्वभरका 3.5 करोड मानिसहरूको सबल जीविकोपार्जनका लागि महत्त्वपूर्ण योगदान गरिसकेको छ। हेफर इन्टरनेसनललाई बुझ्न यसको विगत र स्थापना बारे पनि जान्नुपर्ने हुन्छ। एक अमेरिकी किसान ड्यान वेस्ट स्पेनिस सिभिल वार पीडितहरूको राहत तथा सहायताका लागि फ्रन्टलाइनमा खटिएका थिए। राहतको मिसनमा खटिएका उनले दिनको 1 कप दूध विस्थापितहरूका लागि पर्याप्त नहुने, बरु 1 कप दूधको सट्टा एउटा गाई उत्कृष्ट विकल्प हुने महसुस गरे। यसरी उनले टिच अ म्यान हाउ टु फिस भन्ने प्रख्यात दर्शनलाई पछ्याएर हेफर इन्टरनेसनल स्थापना गरे। नेपालमा भने हेफर इन्टरनेसनलले सन् 1957 देखि सरकारको अनुरोधमा काम गर्न थालेको हो। त्यसअघि राणा प्रधानमन्त्री जङ्गबहादुर राणाले गोरु र गाईको गुणस्तरका लागि सीमित संख्यामा गाई वस्तु आयात गर्ने गरेका थिए। पछि उच्च गुणस्तरको वीर्यका लागि साँडेको अभाव र व्यवस्थित एवं दिगो आनुवंशिक सुधार कार्यक्रमको अभावको समस्या समाधान गर्न नेपालको दुग्ध क्षेत्रलाई सबल बनाउन हेफरले नेपाललाई पशुधन विकासमा सहयोग गर्न थाल्यो। हेफरले उच्च उत्पादन दिने उन्नत जातका घरपालुवा पशु नेपाललाई प्रदान गर्यो। अनौपचारिक रूपमा पशुपालनको क्षेत्रमा नेपाली किसानहरूसँग निरन्तर जोडिएर काम गर्दै पछि सन् 1997 मा नेपालमा हेफर इन्टरनेसनल नेपाल दर्ता भयो। त्यस यताको 2.5 दशक अवधिमा हेफर इन्टरनेसनल नेपालले पशु विकास कार्यक्रम अन्तर्गत 3,20,000 भन्दा धेरै परिवारको जीविकोपार्जनमा मद्दत गरेको छ। ती परिवारहरू 12,500 भन्दा धेरै समूह, 267 महिला उद्यम तथा सहकारी, 3 जिल्ला सङ्घमा आबद्ध छन्, जसमा 99% सदस्यहरू महिला छन्। हेफरले उनीहरूको कृषि उत्पादन र बजार पहुँच सुदृढीकरणका लागि काम गरेको छ। हेफर इन्टरनेसनल नेपालको मुख्य उद्देश्य भनेको सर्वाङ्गीण सामुदायिक विकासमा आधारित भएर सहकार्यमूलक, प्रतिस्पर्धात्मक तथा समावेशी वातावरण सिर्जना गर्दै गरिबी तथा आर्थिक जोखिमको अवस्थामा रहेका परिवारहरूलाई बाख्रा र दुग्ध उत्पादनका लागि सफल बनाउनु हो। यस संस्थाको नेपाल परियोजना खास गरी महिला किसानहरूलाई पशुपालन र दुग्ध उद्यमी बनाउँदै उत्पादन र नाफा बढाउन प्रोत्साहन गर्ने तर्फ त केन्द्रित छ नै, त्यससँगै नेपाललाई बाख्रा र दुग्ध उत्पादनमा आत्मनिर्भर बनाउने लक्ष्य पनि बोकेको छ। हेफरले 43 जिल्लामा स्थानीय नागरिक, निजी क्षेत्र तथा अन्य 100 बढी स्थानीय गैर सरकारी संस्थाहरूसँगको सहकार्यमा परियोजना कार्यान्वयन गरेको छ। कृषि मन्त्रालय तथा उसका विभागहरू र स्थानीय सरकारहरूसँग मिलेर काम गरेको हेफरले सन् 2021 मा 43 स्थानीय सरकारसँग मिलेर सर्वाङ्गीण सामुदायिक विकास परियोजनाको बारेमा ठूलो जनसङ्ख्यामा जनचेतना फैलाउने काम गरेको छ। हेफरले सामाजिक तथा कृषि उद्यमी बनाउने सँगै स्थानीय सरकार र सरोकारवालाहरूसँग सहकार्य गर्दै उपभोक्ता लक्षित स्वस्थ र गुणस्तरीय मासु तथा दुग्धजन्य वस्तुहरूको बजारीकरणमा समेत काम गरेको छ। केही समय अघि कृषि तथा पशुपक्षी विकास मन्त्रालयले सार्वजनिक गरेको व्यावसायिक पशुपालन एकीकृत सर्वेक्षण 2078 का अनुसार नेपालमा कुल 6,486 व्यावसायिक पशुपालन फार्म छन्। नेपालमा 15,380 वटा दुध दिने गाईहरूबाट दुध दिने अवधिमा 4,58,03,457 लिटर दुध उत्पादन हुने गरेको पाइएको छ। जात अनुसार तुलना गर्दा होलिस्टेन र होलिस्टेन क्रस ब्रिड जातको गाईबाट सबैभन्दा बढी दुध उत्पादन हुने गरेको पाइएको छ। यस्तै व्यावसायिक फार्महरूबाट 2,32,31,091 लिटर भैँसीको दुध उत्पादन भएको देखिएको छ। जात अनुसार तुलना गर्दा मुर्रा जातको भैँसीबाट सबैभन्दा बढी दुध उत्पादन हुने गरेको पाइएको छ। अन्तर्राष्ट्रिय खाद्य तथा कृषि संगठन FAO ले नेपालका लागि वार्षिक प्रति व्यक्ति खपत 91 लिटर हुनुपर्ने बताएको छ। सन् 2020 मा गरिएको एउटा अध्ययन अनुसार एक नेपालीले वार्षिक 72 लिटर दूध र दुग्धजन्य पदार्थ उपभोग गर्छन्। प्रति व्यक्ति उपभोग भन्दा उत्पादन कम छ। उत्पादन वार्षिक रूपमा बढोत्तरी भए पनि माग उत्पादनको दर भन्दा बढी हुँदा दुग्ध उत्पादन बढाउन आवश्यक हुन्छ। पशुको आनुवंशिक गुणस्तर, स्वास्थ्य र पोषण, खेती अभ्यास र प्रविधिको प्रयोग बढाउँदै दुग्ध उत्पादनमा आत्मनिर्भर बन्नु आजको आवश्यकता हो। त्यसैले नेपालमा दुग्ध क्षेत्रको आवश्यकता पूरा गर्ने उद्देश्य राखेर हेफर इन्टरनेसनलले कोरियाबाट 101 वटा कोरली बाछी नेपाल ल्याउँदैछ। नेपालमा ल्याइने जिउँदा गाईवस्तुको यो सबैभन्दा ठूलो खेप हुनेछ। दक्षिण कोरियाले उपहारमा दिन लागेको ती 101 बाछीहरू र उन्नत जातका गोरुहरूले नेपालको दुग्ध उत्पादनमा टेवा पुग्ने विश्वास गरिएको छ। बाछीहरूको बजार मूल्य प्रति बाछी करिब 4 लाख रुपैयाँ र प्रति गोरु 2.5 करोड रुपैयाँ छ। ती वस्तुहरू नेपाल ल्याउन 6.5 करोड रुपैयाँ बराबर खर्च लाग्ने अनुमान गरिएको छ। प्रत्येक बाछीको दूध उत्पादन क्षमता दैनिक 30 लिटर भन्दा धेरै छ, जुन अहिले यहाँका गाईहरूको तुलनामा 3 गुणा धेरै हो। बाछीहरू सिन्धुलीको कमलामाई नगरपालिकाका 50 किसानहरूलाई प्रदान गरिने हेफर इन्टरनेसनल नेपालले जानकारी दिएको छ।
एकदमै हेफर इन्टरनेसनल बारे हामीले बुझ्यौँ। नेपालमा पनि महत्त्वपूर्ण काम गरिरहेको छ संस्थाले। यसको बारेमा अलिकति थप जानकारी लिनु जरुरी नै भयो।
हामीले हेफर इन्टरनेसनलको बारेमा अझ विशेष गरेर यसले नेपालमा के गर्छ भन्ने बारेमा जानकारी लिनको लागि आज हेफर इन्टरनेसनलका सिइओ सुरिता सान्दोशमलाई हाम्रो शोमा बोलाएका छौँ। तर उहाँसँग कुराकानी गर्नुभन्दा अगाडि उहाँको लागि एउटा छोटो भिडियो तयार पारिएको छ, त्यो एकचोटि हेरौँ है।
Surita Sandosham is the Chief Executive Officer of Heifer International. Sandosham was born and raised in Singapore and has more than 2 decades of senior leadership experience at global non-profit organizations. Most recently, she served as the Executive Director of Heartland Alliance International, a humanitarian and human rights non-profit based in Chicago, Illinois. Prior to Heartland, she was the Vice President of Programs at the global non-profit Synergos in New York, building multi-sectoral partnerships on behalf of smallholder farmers and other vulnerable populations. While at Heartland Alliance International, Sandosham championed human rights, providing life-saving services and advocacy to survivors of conflict and those at risk of human rights abuses. She is a lawyer by training who graduated from City University London and the School of Oriental and African Studies at London University. As an international development practitioner and human rights advocate, she has served in leadership positions at Amnesty International, Equality Now, Rockefeller Foundation, Synergos, and Heartland Alliance International, working to accelerate agricultural growth, address maternal and child malnutrition, improve retention rates in education, and support economic development for marginalized communities.
एकदम हामी अब हाम्रो अतिथिलाई वेलकम गर्न गइरहेको छौँ। सुरिता, welcome to our show and namaste.
Namaste. Thank you for having me.
How are you this morning?
Very well, and I'm thrilled to be here.
Thank you. So are we. We just saw a brief introduction of how what Heifer International does. But since you're here, I would like to ask, what does it do? What is Heifer International, and how is it affiliated to Nepal?
So we're an international development organization that was founded in 1944. And what we are attempting to do globally is think about development from an inclusive and sustainable way. Mm-hmm. And we focus on poor communities around the world, smallholder farmers, mm-hmm. And we look at them as providing the solutions, and we help them by building their capacity and looking at ways of helping them bring to market the value chains. Mm-hmm. And just to say that we're in 21 countries around the world.
Okay. So what are the core areas that you look at as Heifer International? Is it like, let's say, for example, only cattle or any other animals? Is it milk products, or is it agriculture? So what are the core areas that you focus on?
Yes, so I think we've been around a long time, and so when you hear Heifer International, people think livestock and they think
yes.
animals and the gift of animals. But
yes.
we've gone beyond that.
Okay.
And the reason we've gone beyond that is we understand that the problems regarding agriculture are systemic. And so it's thinking about the animals, but it's also thinking about the integrated agricultural practices.
Right.
And we're focused on the smallholder farmer, and we're focused on women's empowerment. And we're also thinking about her and her family and ensuring that she has a living income. And by that, it's more, it's thinking about how her family improves their lives, that they have health, she can send her kids to whatever school that she wants to. And that's important to us.
I could say that it focuses on women. From the video, I saw lots of women being involved. And also recently off air, we heard you say that you were recently at Nepalganj.
Yes.
Why were you there? How was your experience? Could you please share something?
Yeah, so I don't know if you know this, but I've only been the CEO of Heifer International for just 3 months.
Okay.
And part of this journey is understanding the work that we're doing. So I'm on a learning journey, and Nepal is one of the countries that we're in. And we've been here since, I guess we set up our office in 1997. And the staff have been taking me to meet with the communities that we work with. So I got to see a self-help group, all of these women creating savings and loans. They start with 2 rupees, and then you meet a cooperative, which was the next place we went to, and we're talking about millions. And it's basically women's empowerment. And the first group I went to, they were talking about not being literate, but learning how to write and read and then create reports. And so we got to hear those reports. And those pictures, the recent ones, are us meeting some of these amazing women.
Oh, that's
So I had a very, as I was listening to you,
Yeah.
both now and also before the show, you came from, you are a lawyer.
Yes.
And you have worked in different agencies, organizations. Why Heifer? What is your drive? What's your interest in Heifer? Why would you pick Heifer as somewhere you want to pursue your career?
Well, for one thing, they picked me, but
But you are interested, right?
Yes,
You are
it's
interested.
totally, and I feel very privileged
Right.
to be able to work with them. Here's the thing, international development work tends to be project-oriented.
Right.
The difference with Heifer is that they look at the values, and these values are about, ensuring that you're looking at the whole family.
Right.
You're making sure that their health is in good shape, that they're thinking about the income generations, they're thinking about their confidence and their self-esteem.
Right.
It's those very values that are really important to us, and it's important to me. And we call these values the 12 cornerstones. And one of the things about these values is we provide the training to these women, in addition to financial literacy, in addition to understanding how to create self-help groups and co-ops. So to me, it's a holistic and a systemic approach.
Okay.
We still have a lot to ask about Heifer International and still Heifer's collaboration with Nepal. But for right now, we're going to take एउटा सानो ब्रेक लिएर फेरि हामी हाम्रो पाहुनासँग यहाँ सामु उपस्थित हुनेछौँ।
Goodwill Finance, financing for success since 1995.
Goodwill mai cha vishwas jantaको Goodwill नै हो साथी सफलताको
Goodwill Finance, financing for success since 1995.
यही पहिचान यो देशको यही आयाम यो राष्ट्रको संवाहक हो यो शान्तिको चिनारी हो यो नेपालीको पाइला उन्नतिको गर्व यो देशको गौरव नेपालीको प्रतीक यो शान्तिको
नेपाल वायु सेवा निगम राष्ट्रिय ध्वजावाहक।
थोरै नै किन नहोस् बचत गर्ने बानी बसालौं। एभरेस्ट बैंक।
Galaxy This Morning Live co-sponsor Goodwill Finance Limited, financing for success since 1995. Associate sponsor Everest Bank Limited, Digu, Darilo र विश्वासिलो। Nepal Wool House, Bhotahiti, Asan, Kathmandu.
यहाँलाई फेरि पनि स्वागत छ छोटो ब्रेक पछि। आज हामीहरू विशेष अतिथि हुनुहुन्छ हेफर इन्टरनेसनलका सिइओ सुरिता सन्दोशमसँग हामी कुरा गरिरहेको छौँ। Surita, so continue with the conversation. You represent the international, the main body, but you have presence in Nepal also, a very big presence, Heifer in Nepal. What does Heifer Nepal focus on? Where are the areas you are now working in Nepal?
So, you know, that short clip that you showed that we are working with the most vulnerable women in rural areas. And we're trying to provide an enabling environment for them to earn income. And they do that through dairy, they do that through small ruminants and horticulture. And so we work to create collectives, and they save their money, and they save it not only to get income, they also save it for personal means. And they recognize that they're able to rely on each other because the circumstances in which they live, and you know this better than I do because you live in this country, it's you know, it's not the greatest, right, in terms of providing the food and safety nets for these women, and they're excluded. But if you provide the enabling environment and you think about it from a values perspective, they're phenomenal.
Fair.
And that's what we do. Can I just add?
Please.
So in terms of the self-help groups, we've worked with more than 11,000. And then in terms of the cooperatives, right, which are much more formal, it's somewhere in the region of 227 cooperatives. And we've been in the country for 25 years. And we just celebrated our 25th anniversary this year.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And also another thing I wanted to ask, remember earlier you also mentioned when we say Heifer International, we think about gifts. So while talking about gifts, I also heard and we also saw the report that we're getting lots of cows here in Nepal. What is this all about? Could you please elaborate?
Yes, so passing of the gift is one of our cornerstones. It's one of the values, and it suggests that if you give a gift, and in this case of livestock, and you know, in the case of Korea, we actually gave the Koreans livestock. We gave them cattle and poultry just after the Korean War because it, you know, the whole country was devastated. And the expectation is that it's not charity, that once you sort of build yourself up, and the Koreans have, you want to give back to other communities. So we're getting from Korea 101 cattle to actually support the dairy sector here in Nepal. And that's a gift, right? And so other organizations become donors. And we're building partnerships with the Ministry of Agriculture, the Ministry of Livestock here, but the gift was from the Ministry of Agriculture in Korea.
So what's the plan? Like, you know, okay, so you have already gifted some cows and some more are coming from what we understand. So what's the plans with these cows? Like, are you going to be like giving to different groups or different individuals or to the government, and so that they can decide where the cows go to? What is the plan?
So one of the ways that we work, which is critical to ensure that we have sustainable agriculture, is that we work in partnerships. So the partnership with government is critical to all the work that we're doing, including with those women leaders. And so we're working with the Ministry of Livestock here, and we're going to ensure, working with them, that the cows that come in are, you know, healthy, and that they're actually going to increase the milk productivity and also help the smallholder dairy farmers here.
You just mentioned about Korea. I think, if I'm not mistaken, Korea is now very well known for their dairy products worldwide. So, and they are gifting us these here in Nepal. You recently met these, as you mentioned, women from Nepalganj, and you saw how enthusiastic they were. Do you think in the day to come, like if we do it right, we will be in a position where we will be self-sustainable in dairy product and will be able to give gifts to other countries like how Korea is doing right now?
I would say the answer is completely yes. And if you focus on the women and you make sure that you provide them with the enabling environment so that they can succeed.
What would be the enabling environment for them?
Well, you know, we're working with the most vulnerable, right? And so the stories that I heard yesterday was how difficult it is for them to even leave their homes, how difficult it is to buy a pencil for their child. And when they come into these groups, they become empowered, and then they see the possibilities of, you know, using the savings and loans, and they work like we do. They have a strategy, they have plans, they have goals. I saw the building that, you know, where their plans and goals are up on the walls. Then I got to see their, you know, their assets, which is basically the goats, and how proud they are. But the environment is not supporting them because they're completely excluded.
Right.
So for us, it's to stay the course, to be with them, not to tell them what to do, but to be with them throughout as they succeed. And their success is our success. And we're doing it in partnership. Again, right? Government is going to change things, and government sees the potential. And one of the other things I got to see while I was out in Nepalganj is the relationships that we have with local governments. We're signing MOUs with 59 local governments. Guess who they're working with? They're working with these women, and they're working to help create the self-help groups and the co-ops.
Just to follow up with that question, sorry to ask. So yeah, like you provide the cow, well, you or the government provides the cows that you brought, they're gifted, to ensure their health, to ensure that they get fed properly, you know?
Yes.
To ensure that they're looked after properly. What are the things, what are the factors that you think are very important for local governments to think about?
So thank you for asking that question. So the other people I met, in addition to the local government and these women, are the local NGOs.
Right.
And we have local agrovets, young entrepreneurs who are working with the farmers and helping them in terms of vaccinations, deworming, and supporting them. And I think that that's really important. That's part of the enabling environment. You can't do things alone. And we believe that the collective is actually then going to lead us to where we need to be, in Nepal. Right. And for us in Heifer International, Nepal is a great example of how this can be done in other places.
Nepal, Nepal or Nepali people, we have always said we are an agricultural country. Our main source of income is agriculture, but at the same time we find our youths going abroad, and in the villages we say that nowadays there are hardly any youths. So what do you think we as Nepali or our government or our local government need to do or need to focus so that when we get gifts like this or help or even to collaborate with Heifer so that we can be in a better position in the days to come?
So I think one of the things is actually listening to these women. And the saddest story is, we've got this World Cup and we've heard about Nepali men having to go, and boys, right? And we heard this yesterday from the women. And what's changing for them is creating this savings and loan so that they can keep the income here and build off the agricultural value chains. Government can learn from some of these stories and they can see the success and they can then scale it up. So training the youth and recognizing that farming is actually quite a sexy sector and you're going to make some money from this is great. One of the things that I learned is that, we used to import goats from India in Nepal. We don't do that anymore. So who's doing that? It's the women. And they care about their children. They want their boys to stay here. And so we have to think about that, right? We have to think about the future. And I think that the government is a great partner.
So can you tell us, because right now the big news is of the new heifers and bulls and all that coming into Nepal.
Yes.
Through heifer. Thank you very much for that. Can you tell us a bit more about what's the background about those and why were those chosen, and why now?
So this is a program that we've been talking about for 2 years, but it really extends to the fact that we had given Korea livestock, and so they want to give back this gift. They're very inspired by what we've been doing in Nepal. And they basically have the assets, and they understand that Heifer has these relationships with government. Because if you don't work with government and you don't think through that, then you can send the cows and nothing's going to happen. True. But we want to ensure, right? There's a boost to the dairy sector. We want to make sure that milk productivity increases. I know that both of you have cows, and so you have that for a reason, right? And so that's what we want to see happen.
Right.
So, what do you came here, you went to Nepalganj, you met those women, you hear and off air, I hear you talking about those women. What is it, do you think, if given a chance, they will be able to succeed, they will be able to make this dairy sector sustainable? Do you think they have that zeal in them?
Yes, and I'll tell you a story. The first place we went to was a self-help group that only been organized for a year. And all of these women spoke about, their reports, and you heard about it. Agriculture, health, thinking about it holistically. And then there was one child, and I don't think she was quite an adolescent. She gets up and she says, I've created a child group. Tell me, right, if that isn't because of the mothers and the aunts and the people in the community. And she says no one is supporting her. And then she brought all of these young girls with her. To me, that's an inspiration. True. And I'm about to meet your president, right? I want to talk to her about the potential that exists. And heifers can show that potential. We're working in partnerships. We're not taking the credit, but we really want to show, right, the potential in terms of where this can go and how it can help the people in Nepal.
I'm glad to hear your experience about Nepalgans, and when a foreigner they come here to Nepal, they say besides mountain, it's people, Nepali people, what they like the most.
Yes.
Again, we will talk about a Heifer International. अहिले एउटा तर एकैछिनपछि हामी कुरा गर्छौँ. अहिलेलाई भने एउटा छोटो ब्रेकको पाली भएको छ.
यही पहिचान यो देशको, यही आयाम यो राष्ट्रको, संवाहक हो यो शान्तिको, चिनारी हो यो नेपालीको, पाइला उन्नतिको, गर्व यो देशको, गौरव नेपालीको, प्रतीक यो शान्तिको.
नेपाल वायु सेवा निगम राष्ट्रिय ध्वजावाहक.
Goodwill Finance, financing for success since 1995.
Goodwill mai cha vishwas janta ko, Goodwill nai ho sathi safalta ko.
Goodwill Finance, financing for success since 1995.
दिदी मलाई कस्तो स्पेसमा जानु मन छ नि.
त्यसो भए त एस्ट्रोनट्स बन्न त नि.
ए हो, म ठुलो भएर एस्ट्रोनट्स बन्छु नि. तपाईँ ठुलो भएर के बन्ने दिदी?
म डाक्टर बन्ने.
मेरा नानीहरूका यति ठुला सपनाहरू छन्. म एक्लैले यी सपनाहरू कसरी पूरा गर्न सक्ला भन्ने चिन्ता भइरहन्थ्यो. तर अहिले चिन्ता गर्न छोडेर मैले एभरेस्ट ब्याङ्कमा बचत गरेकी छु. त्यसैले मेरो बच्चाहरूको भविष्यलाई लिएर ढुक्क छु. थोरै नै किन नहोस्, बचत गर्ने बानी बसालौं.
एभरेस्ट ब्याङ्क, दिगो, दरिलो र विश्वासिलो.
Galaxy This Morning Live co-sponsor Goodwill Finance Limited, financing for success since 1995. Associate sponsor Everest Bank Limited, Digu, Darilo र विश्वासिलो. Nepal Wool House, Bhotahiti, Asan, Kathmandu.
फेरि पनि स्वागत छ ग्यालेक्सी दिस मर्निङ लाइभमा. तपाईँहरू हामीलाई हेर्दै हुनुहुन्छ र आज हाम्रो एकदम महत्त्वपूर्ण अतिथि हुनुहुन्छ हेफर इन्टरनेसनलका CEO Surita Sandosham. Surita, now we're almost towards the end of the show, and I really have to ask you this question. With anything, with any good work, there's always this financial activity. There's a financial link. Now in Nepal, we have cooperatives and financial institutions all over the place, including the local government in local areas. Now that you have, let's say, for example, cows, or even in the future you might bring something, you might gift something else. How does Heifer work with financial institutions or cooperatives in Nepal? Or does it? And if what's your idea about that?
So we do work with, and we create cooperatives in Nepal. Okay. So and we create them on the basis of dairy and small ruminants and horticulture. And I met one of the cooperatives. Okay. They started off with 25 members, now there's 821. Okay. And you know that the women, right, are not seen as credit worthy by the banks. But when you create the sort of savings and loans and you start to see that they almost never default in payback, trust is built. So what is our role? This is about partnerships. This is also about bridging to the financial institutions and making sure that those financial institutions see these women as assets. And we want to build more of that. And we want to build these relationships with banks and financial institutions. And we've already started. And this is the systemic approach that we're taking.
You know, you're a brand new CEO of Heifer International. Once again, congratulations.
Thank you.
We wish you all the best in the days to come. But when it comes to Nepal, what are the further plans that Heifer International plans to do?
So one of the things about Nepal is obviously I told you about the numbers of cooperatives and self-help groups. We want to increase that. And we want the government to be more engaged. And already we've started by signing these MOUs with 59 local governments. We want to make sure that it's at a provincial level, and then we want to work at a national level. And we want to advocate, right, at a national level. And so that's our intention. So we're here for a while. These things are not going to change overnight. And I'm going to come back, and I'm going to visit your farms.
We will look forward to that. We welcome you back to Nepal and to our place also.
Thank you.
And before we leave, is there any messages that you want to give to Nepali women, Nepali market, overall all the Nepali people? Because agriculture is our core. Is there anything that you would like to say?
Well, I guess, and I said this to the women, that they're the ones that know how to solve their problems. And they just need to ask us for the kind of support that they need. And we're here for the long haul.
Oh,
thank you so much for coming. And
Thank
it's
you.
been an absolute pleasure. And I think we have something for you as a token of appreciation.
Surita, not only from Sarita, but also from Samir, from our entire team. It says, you are here, we are very happy. Tabai aunu bhayo, hami danga paryo, a small token of love for you.
Dhanyavad.
Thank you so much for coming to the show.
Thank you so much.
हाम्रो पाहुनासँग कुराकानी गर्दा गर्दै अब हाम्रो जाने बेला भइसकेको छ किनकि हाम्रो रेगुलर डेस्कमा हामी रेगुलर सेक्सन लिएर त आउँछौँ नै हेफर इन्टरनेसनलको बारेमा यहाँले धेरै कुरा थाहा पाउनु भयो होला भन्दै अहिलेलाई भने हामी एउटा छोटो ब्रेक लिन्छौँ